Hey everybody, it's your old pal Roger Roper, and I just finished editing the Lewis Herthum interview that you're about to listen to. I have to warn you though, sometimes technology gets in the way and we can't record everything at the top quality that you're used to hearing at Shat on TV. When we sat down with Lewis, he was using his earbuds from Apple, and we don't know what happened with the connection, but it was a little screwy, so everything you hear on his end has a little bit of a popping sound. We just want to forewarn you. The content is great. The interview is amazing. Lewis is one of the nicest working actors in Hollywood today, and we couldn't have been more just enjoyable to sit down and chat with him. However, if you are listening to this in your earbuds or in your own earphones, you're probably going to get really distracted very easily. I recommend that you try and listen to this somewhere through speakers, whether it's on a car or something like that. Just wanted to forewarn you, we did everything we could to try and remove the popping sounds, but unfortunately, sometimes technology gets in the way. Also, Gene and I were trying to fit in this interview in between appointments from our busy, normal, everyday work life, and the interview was going so well. We're having such a good time with each other that we ran a little bit long, and that bled into a webinar that I had to be part of. I had to be part of a meeting, so I had to stop, and I had to go and join that. So it kind of ends abruptly, but it's not because we don't love him or respect him. It's just that we have lives and jobs. That being said, we hope you really enjoy our podcast interview with the original Peter Abernathy, Mr. Lewis Herthum. Here we go.
Hi, folks. This is Lewis Herthum, the original Peter Abernathy. Hell is empty and all the devils are here on the Shat on TV Westworld podcast with Roger, Gene, and Big D.
Welcome back to Shat on TV Westworld Edition, the unofficial podcast companion piece for the hit HBO television series Westworld. I'm one of your two co-hosts tonight, Roger Roper, and alongside me is Gene Lyons.
I got nothing to say. I'm so excited.
And this is a very special edition of Shat on TV Westworld. We, like last season, were able to connect with one of the stars of the television series. He was gracious enough to lend some of his very important time to us, and we're just happy as all heck can be. Can I say heck? I can say heck on the podcast, right?
It's your podcast, Raj.
If you are fans of the show, you might recognize his voice as our intro to the podcast on our theme music. Please help me in welcoming the fantastic actor, Mr. Lewis Herthum.
Hey, guys. Thank you. Isn't this where you do the applause meter thing? No, please don't. I was totally kidding. Yeah, it's good to be here, guys.
So we're conducting this interview. I'm not sure when we're going to release this, but we're conducting it shortly after season 2, episode 4. There's a lot that has happened, that has taken place in Westworld this season. When it was announced in the off season that you were coming back as a series regular, it really got us very excited. All three of us, including Big D, who couldn't be here, and Carrie Gross as well. But when did you know that you were going to come back as a series regular? Did you hear it around the same time as we did, as it was announced, or?
No, I heard it before you guys did. When we were shooting episode 8 of season 1, when Hale and Sizemore come in and download Peter with all this data, that was obviously a clue that there was more coming. I didn't know what. I had no inclination at that point that I would be coming back as a series regular, but I felt pretty confident I was coming back. It was shortly before Christmas 2017. I was about to head to Louisiana to spend Christmas with my family, and my whole team called me, and the assistant says, "Lewis, we have Tracy and Stu and Chip and Greg on the phone." I'm like, "Ooh, that's always good news. When the whole team calls you, it's always good news. At least it has been so far." So my agent, Greg Klein, said, "Lewis, if you could have one Christmas present, what would it be?" And I went, "Well, that's easy. Series regular on Westworld season 2. And he went, "Ta-da!" And so I was like, that's how I found it. That was, but then I had to keep it quiet until it was announced, I think in March or something like that. So I literally told maybe two people, my daughter and my sister. I think that was it.
What an amazing Christmas gift. I think the closest I can come to that is when Gene bought me Battlefield 1 for the Xbox One last Christmas. I was very excited, and we got to play together online. But as I mentioned, we were able to interview Ptolemy Slocum, who plays Sylvester on Westworld, who also is back for season 2. During our interview, he mentioned how difficult the long gap between the filming of the pilot in 2014 and the show's ultimate airing in late 2016 was. He sometimes even wondered if the show would even air. During these 2 long years, were you ever concerned about the show's fate?
I can't say that I was concerned about its fate. I was pretty positive that it would air. I mean, it was just too good. There was too much money involved. There was, the pedigree was just so extraordinary that I felt sure it would air. But believe me, he's right. That two years was tough because, especially, I mean, it was tough because everybody wanted to know and, what happens and, tell me what do you do and, what's it like and all that kind of stuff. So not only did I have to keep those kind of things quiet, but one day when we did go back to filming, as you could see, as you know, in season 1, there were a lot of episodes where I just barely appeared, it was just a little fleeting moment or whatever. And I actually had to do some reshoots for season 1 a couple of times. So one day when I was there, actors get these little sides for the scenes that are going to be shot during the day in your trailer. So, and there was a scene that day between Ford and Bernard. Not the one where he finds out he's a host, but the one later when he's kind of analyzing him and they're having a conversation. That was that day. So I found out that Bernard was a host, and I had to keep that quiet for 2 years. And so the toughest thing was just the wait. I felt pretty confident that the pilot and the work that they were so gracious to allow me to do in the pilot might change the landscape for me. And so I was anxious and it did. So, it was tough. It was a tough wait, but well worth it, obviously.
Yeah, that wait. I mean, I can't even imagine from the perspective of shooting the show, because we just in covering the show in that off season, we work for about 10 or 11 weeks on it, 12 weeks if you count the previews, and it's 3 episodes a week. We're grinding on it, and we watch every episode, and then we have to read all the email, and and it's a labor of love. And when it's over, we just keep telling yourself you got 10 weeks to go, 9 weeks to go, and then you can take some time off, maybe have a life. And after it's over, I immediately am just starving. And then we're left, another year and a half, 2 years until the next, season comes out. And it's always worth it, though. I remember stepping into season 2, and you have that nagging feeling in the pit of your stomach. What if this isn't the same fire we had last season? What if it's not the same because it's been so long? And I remember episode 1, I was like, oh, I don't feel so good about this. And then when episode 2 hit, when Reunion hit, everything lit right back up. And I was like, this show has legs. And for me, it was, and I'm not just saying this because you're on the interview, but for me, it was the character that I connected with most emotionally was Peter Abernathy. It was the first time that I felt something really deep inside where I was hurting for a character on the show. And Peter has that ability to elicit both the sympathy and the fear from the audience. You can be terrifying at one second, and then very endearing the next. And I was wondering, for you as an actor, which is harder to pull off? Is it scaring the audience or earning their attachment? And which do you prefer?
Well, I think earning their attachment, obviously, because and that part is probably easier for me, a little more accessible when you're, when you are put in a situation in real life where your blood gets up, if you will. I grew up in Louisiana. I grew up in, it wasn't really a tough situation, but I was a bit of a scrapper, and so there are times, what we call down south when you give somebody the fool look, it's when, it means business. And so I think that the Germanic part of me has a kind of I had as a young guy, a pretty rotten temper, to be quite honest with you. And people used to say that, when I got the fool look, it was pretty scary. So I think that I don't get that look in real life very often, but I can tap into it. But when you're not, it's harder for me. And I think it's less certain So when I hear people say that it was scary, like the thing with Dr. Ford, now that scene, I mean, we were so locked in that that was, I wanted to be freaky and scary in that moment, and it felt like it was working. And I think that it did work now, looking at it. But without question, I think the emotional part of it is easier for me to do, which is for a lot of actors, I think is harder. But for me, it just is easier. And when you're working like in the scene in episode 3 with that you were talking about, Gene, that was just so powerful, man. That was just that was such a powerful scene to shoot. And whenever Evan and I get in close proximity, knowing we have to do a scene like that, the emotion just starts bubbling instantly, and to the point where directors have said, hey, during rehearsal, save it. And we're like, don't worry, we can do this 100 times. It's going to be there every time. She's remarkable to work with too.
You talk about that scene in season 1, working with Sir Anthony Hopkins, and in season 2, working very closely with Evan Rachel Wood, both fantastic actors in their own rights. And when we talk to Ptolemy, and when we're on Twitter pretty heavily, and we follow all the actors like yourselves, there seems to be a lot of camaraderie and support amongst the cast and crew in the Westworld production. What is it about the production that seems to bring out the best in everyone? Especially during season 1, all the Twitter world and the Twitterverse and the Reddit was ablaze when they see someone of Sir Anthony Hopkins' caliber be upstaged by yourself. I think you really stole the scene. But, are there any fun, behind the scenes stories that you can share? Like, what is it like being that emotional, and how do you keep the brevity in such a dark, moody show like Westworld?
Okay, there's a lot of questions in there, but first of all, the camaraderie. I think that when you have camaraderie like we do on Westworld, it kind of originates at the top and funnels down. Most often on Westworld is a bit of its own animal, really, because other shows, guest starring on shows, you can tell immediately what the mood of the crew and the cast and just what it's going to be like by number 1 on the call sheet. Perfect example is Mark Harmon. When I did NCIS, I mean, that is the happiest crew. They're all happy to be there, by smiling and friendly, and it's because of Mark Harmon. In fact, I even told him, I said, man, this is such a joy to work on this show. And he goes, well, I said, your crew, everything is just so much fun, and it's all because of you. And he goes, well, we have a very strict policy here. And I said, what's that? And he goes, it's a no asshole policy. And we enforce it very, very strictly. And so that is certainly the case for Westworld. But then you have even the pedigree of the producers and the creators. Jonah and Lisa are truly 2 of the sweetest people you could ever meet. I mean, I've been in this business 36 years, and I've met a lot of producers, a lot of showrunners, creators, and all that kind of stuff. And rarely do you meet any 2 more brilliant people that are more down to earth and just wonderful people. I mean, I can't stress it enough. So that all permeates through the whole thing. And believe me, this is not an easy show to make, and the crew works tirelessly. I mean, the crew of this show should win awards because they work very hard. It's long hours. It's very difficult. I mean, some of the stuff in Utah is like way in the remote areas of the wilderness. I mean, where I find the photograph in the dirt in season 1 was just like in the middle of nowhere, and they just put that corral down because of the vista that was around. So yeah, and then it just goes down to the fact that they hire all the right people. They just hire the right people, and they're wonderful, like Ptolemy and Leonardo and Stephen Ogg, and I mean, it's just, you couldn't ask for a better group of people to hang around with, much less if you got to be working to work with. I think there was something in what was the very last part of that question, because that was something I wanted to address.
What are some behind the scenes stories about what you've done, either with the cast or with the crew? Ptolemy mentioned that Tandy Newton is one of the biggest practical jokers on set.
Could well be. I unfortunately have never worked with Andy, and but I see her around. She's like truly one of the most lovely people, and her husband Oliver. They're truly lovely, warm, friendly people. So I haven't been able to experience any of the gags, but as far as stories, I mean, I just love kind of telling people the story when Sir Anthony Hopkins and I shot that scene all day, and I mean literally all day. That scene was also much longer There was quite a bit more to that scene than you see. It was edited beautifully, by the way. I think the things that were removed were, oftentimes you get kind of upset when things are removed from a scene, but that scene cut together so beautifully. But, so we were sitting there all day, literally, 6 hours before lunch and then at least another 4 or 5 hours after that. And we just had these great conversations. He just told me great stories about growing up in Wales and how at 15 years old, he knocked on Richard Burton's door because he lived in the same city and asked for an autograph, which he, all right, kid, gave him the autograph. And then 20 years later, he replaced him in The Lion in Winter on Broadway. And Burton remembered him, which is pretty interesting. And, he's a composer. He composed a waltz called "And the Waltz Goes On," which was performed in Vienna. Andre Rieu did it, and I had seen that because I researched, Tony, as he likes to be called, before I worked with him. I just wanted to get sort of a feel for him as a person. Another incredibly genuine, sweet, kind, generous man. So if anybody is interested, go to YouTube and search for "And the Waltz Goes On," Anthony Hopkins. And so there he is in Vienna at this castle, hearing his waltz performed by Andre Rieu and his orchestra. And it's incredible, and just seeing it, you can tell he's sitting there with his wife, Stella, bursting with joy. And so I asked him which experience was more extraordinary, winning an Oscar or that. And, he never really, I don't recall him answering the question, but it just got us into talking about how he's been, playing music since he was a lad. And, in the story about he's always been a fan of Andre Rieu, and he thought, what the heck? So I'm going to send him my waltz, and he sent it to him. And he says, I don't expect to hear from you, but I just thought you might like to see this. And he said he called him up and he said, I want to perform your waltz in Vienna, and I want you to be there. Yeah, and he does wonderful impersonations, Rod Steiger, Brando. Yeah, so we had a great time. Great guy, and he's an amazing artist too. He's quite the Renaissance man.
It's incredible. Tony, as you mentioned, I'm going to call him Tony now. From now on in the podcast, he's Tony.
Yeah, he would appreciate it. First time I was introduced to him by Jonah, the very first words out of his mouth were "Call me Tony." Very first words out of his mouth.
So Tony, very accomplished Shakespearean actor as well. And I noticed my ex-girlfriend. This is what a good job you're doing. My ex-girlfriend called me up. She said, "Did you catch that in episode 3?" I said, "What's that?" She goes, "King Lear." I was like, "What?" I went back and I said, Peter, dipping in the King Lear there. So the series, since its inception, has masterfully weaved Shakespeare into many of the episodes. And I wondered, as an actor who's done a lot of TV, police dramas, Western, stuff like that, did you have an appreciation for the firepower of Shakespeare's words before doing Westworld? And are you a fan now?
I am a bigger fan now than I was before because I've done tons of stage too, but oddly enough, never really got into Shakespeare. The thing about Shakespeare, if you have never seen Shakespeare and you go to a production with really brilliant actors like a Tony Hopkins, you know what they're saying. You get it, even though you don't really know what all the words mean. They're able to convey it, and you put it together. But if you go and see, a crappy performance of a Shakespeare play, it's brutal. It's really brutal. And unfortunately, those are the ones that I had seen. I had seen some pretty bad ones. God, I hope any of my friends that were in them don't hear this.
It's like when I invited Gene and Big D to my community park of Hamlet production that I put on. It was not good. It was, but I thought the costuming was okay, Gene. I thought I did all right with no? All right.
Well, so no, I wasn't that versed with Shakespeare. I've done Shakespeare soliloquies in acting class, although I've had very few of those. But the good news is that I knew those were Shakespearean quotes. I knew they were John Donne. I knew they were Gertrude Stein. I knew whoever they were, but I didn't approach it, and it never dawned on me until people started asking me afterwards, how did it feel to be reciting Shakespeare in front of one of the finest Shakespearean actors in the world? And I said, I never really thought about it because if I had been trying to do Shakespeare, in that way, I would have been extremely anxious about that. But I was simply using the words being spoken through Peter that fit the situation that I was in, and to convey what I wanted to convey because these were words that he was familiar with, and they really spoke to to the situation. So no, I'm glad I never really thought about it in that way before. It made it easier, I guess.
Well, with the increasing size of Westworld's cast, now that we're in season 2, you talked a little bit about how you received a card during one of the filming scenes in season 1 that had a very big spoiler, and you had to keep a lid on it. But now, with all the introduction of new actors and new characters, how has HBO and the production managed to successfully keep a lid on spoilers this season? There's a lot of new questions that fans are asking. Do they even keep secrets from the actors regarding their characters' ultimate arcs? And are you surprised when you're watching it at viewing parties with your friends?
Yes to all those things. You only get scripts for the episodes you're in, and even that can change. As far as you may have shot a scene that was in the script for a particular episode, but then when that episode airs, you're not there. It's somewhere else. Because, this is basically a 10-hour mega feature film. It's shot like a feature film. Most episodic TV is shot 7 to 9 days, depending on what they have. And it's, they shoot that episode in 7 to 9 days. Westworld is boarded. It's called boarding. It's boarded like a feature film, which if you're doing a feature film and you have, scene 5 is in this location, scene 23 is in this location, and scene 76 is in this location, you shoot them all in that location. Well, they board Westworld like that, which is a very smart way to do it. So I think that once they string all of those things together, the episodes may get, some of the scenes you thought were in 5, maybe in 3 or in 6 or 7. So you only, as an actor, you only know what you know from the script you were in. How they keep the secret, I think it's a matter of just the loyalty and the respect for this endeavor that is just so massive. And everyone that feels such a great part of it, and a part of being something so extraordinary. I know I am, and I know everybody is. So I think that that's a large part of it. I think it's just that people respect, what they're asking of them, which is to just keep your mouth shut and let it unfold. Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier that since the beginning of the show, Peter Abernathy, I immediately attached to that character, and he's really been a Westworld fan favorite. And we were wondering, with how the viewers' love for that character manifested itself in your real life. Like, have you had any run-ins or any funny or strange fan interactions where just based on the Peter character?
Well, I certainly got recognized a whole lot more after especially after the pilot. It was kind of strange to be in a restaurant and someone would go, Peter, or some people had, there's some strange reactions like, oh my God, you're Peter Abernathy. Are you Peter Abernathy? And then I would look at him, they go, yes, you are. I see because of your eyes. And they, a lot of times that is what, how people, I guess, recognize. They've told me, I knew that was you because of your eyes. So, yeah, but no weird stories really. Like I know Evan has people saying freeze all motor functions when they see her in public.
Oh God.
And she does it.
Does she really?
Mm-hmm. She'll just freeze for a little while.
My girlfriend and I and one of our other friends, we dressed up for one of the comic fests here in Phoenix. We did Westworld. I did Ptolemy. He did Leonardo. And then my girlfriend dressed as one of the hosts, one of the Clementine. And I kid you not, everyone came up to her and was just asking her to freeze all motor functions. But we are glad to hear that no one's knocking on your door where you live and is asking for autographs or anything weird like that. So that's good.
No, they haven't done that. But it was very bizarre. The other day, I walked out. There was this guy standing. I'm not a real fan of cigarette smoke, and he was standing, in pretty close proximity to open windows in the home. And I wasn't. I'm never rude, but I'm like, hey, would you mind if would you mind not smoking here just because it? And so I walked outside. And I was walking up to him, and he's smoking. And then he looked up to me, and I went, "How you doing?" He goes, I just saw this guy. 5, 6, 7 seconds. He goes, "I'm doing fine, man. I love your work." And I went, "Okay, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Continue." But I didn't tell him. I was like, I couldn't say anything at that point. I just okay. Anyway.
Yeah. Little did you know he was actually talking about Longmire. So you were just way off.
Wait, what's that?
I said, little did you know he was actually just talking about Longmire.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, that's true.
Did he have a cowboy hat on?
No, yeah.
Either way, I guess.
It was the Marlboro Man. It was the Marlboro Man that was outside. But you've done quite a few interviews lately, both with traditional media as well as new media that's connecting fans directly to the cast and characters, such as AMAs on Twitter and Reddit. And even beyond that, you've connected directly with independent podcasts like ours that are dedicated to Westworld. And, you were so gracious enough to record yourself for our opening theme music. What is it about a show like Westworld that creates such deep community involvement? And what has your experience been like connecting directly with the audience?
Yeah, I think what draws people to this show is, first of all, it's not a show that you can just idly watch and, okay, that was a good episode. Can't wait till the next episode. I mean, everybody watches these shows 3-4 times, and including myself. I think it's a welcoming format, and not completely new, because you had Lost and you have Persons of Interest happen to be the same people, but some of the same people, but it involves people. It encourages people to get involved. It's brilliant in that way. And I think that everybody loves a challenge. And I think that when there's so much mindless TV to be consumed, that this attracts people that are looking for more. I know that it's not for everyone. I mean, I see people commenting that, hey, I tried to watch it. I don't know what the hell's going on. And, and that's fine. I think it's people that are looking for more out of their programming. And as far as, it's been really, really fun and flattering and fulfilling to have people recognize you and interact with you. I'm very surprised by it, because after being in this business for so long and doing as much work as I have, I rarely get recognized before Westworld. Very, very rarely. And so it's kind of odd, but it's endearing, and it's gratifying. I like being recognized for my work. I'm not big into wanting to be famous. I look at some of these actors, and the level of their fame is almost frightening. Just because I'm a pretty private person. But people are always very nice. I've never had anyone, threaten me or call me out. So you think you're a badass, huh, Peter Abernathy?
Well, that's because you give him the fool's look. You give him that fool look from Louisiana. Give him that.
I could do that. I could give him that. You're right.
I mean, they've also seen you naked. They know not to mess with that. Right. So, it's a lot of muscle there. So you mentioned people who dig really deep into the episodes, and we've done several shows on Shat on TV. So we've done
Game of Thrones.
I've heard them.
Yeah, so we've done American Gods, Game of Thrones. But the audience with Westworld is very, very different, and we've even labeled them sort of the tinfoil crowd, where they're just coming up with these theories that are just bizarre. And in season 1, we see Peter Abernathy. We got to ask about the show. Here we go. Season 1, Peter Abernathy, glitches out when he sees a picture of James Delos' daughter, Juliet. And many people theorize that the reason why that happens is that James Delos' memories are uploaded into the Peter Abernathy host. Now, some think that's true because of the similarities between Peter and James and the way they move on screen. But alternatively, others claim it's because Peter is your Scottish doppelganger. So what can you tell us about this theory? And have you heard rumors of Peter Mullen being labeled the Scottish Lewis Herthum?
I have not heard those rumors, but it's flattering. The guy's brilliant. And man, what a joy it is just to listen to him speak, isn't it? That accent. Yeah, that cheeky little.
That's right. Well, it's you can curse on the show. It's okay. But think about it. Peter Mullen, Scottish Lewis Herthum. What did they name the character after? Peter Abernathy. It all connects, Lewis. It's all connecting.
Well, but you saw the episode last night, right?
That's right. I did.
Okay. So,
but that doesn't stop us tinfoil theorists at all. The facts don't matter. Facts don't matter.
Yeah. Let me tell you guys. I thought the theory was pretty solid. When I first heard it, which was after reunion, I think, after the second episode, and I was like, wow, makes sense. It's his daughter. Because look, still, I don't know what exactly the couple of questions, and they both came up in reunion. One is, who put these violent delights have violent ends into Peter Abernathy? Because he started it. He started it all. He also did something that I don't think I've heard anybody, or at least none of the articles that I read, talked about. And that is when William says to Dolores, in Reunion, when he walks in and she's, he in the diagnostic room where she's naked, and he walks in and he says, "I can't believe I've ever fell in love with you. You're just a thing." He also says something about a question you're not supposed to ask, or I forget exactly how he words it, but you know what he says that? Because Peter, when he's looking at the photograph and Dolores comes down the next morning, he said, "I had a question you're not supposed to ask, which gave me an answer you're not supposed to know. Do you want to know the question?" And then I went, "What question?" And she's, "Mama, and then he grabs her and he says, "Leave. Don't you see the devil, hell is empty and all the devils are here." So this sort of harkens back. But as far as, so it would make sense that if it was Delos' consciousness in Peter, that he sees his daughter there and he's like, "Well, wait a minute, Dolores is my daughter. Wait, that's my daughter. Oh, wait, except for this one thing that throws me." Do you remember what Peter asks Dolores before she says, "Doesn't look like anything to me"?
Oh, geez. You're deep in.
Okay. I'm deep. Okay.
On the photo?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
He goes, "I found this in the field today." And she says,
"It doesn't look like anything to me."
Right. And then he goes, "But where is she? Have you ever seen a place like this?" So he's talking about the place.
Yeah.
Not the person.
Ooh.
Now, I'm just saying that, and I don't know. So one would still think that if that was the theory, then he would say, "But who is she?"
That's right. Versus the place. And because we know of episode 2, Reunion, she's been to that place before, or something similar to it.
Well, absolutely. And the other thing too is that I could be completely off base, and it still could be something, because he says, "Where is she?" Maybe using she as, well, that's, I know who she is, but where is she? So I can't completely cancel that thought in that whole thing. But to me, it's still a mystery to me, the actor, why Peter was the first one to trigger this whole these violent delights have violent ends.
This is a blog post for Gene on our website, shatontv.com. Now you've opened a whole new can of worms, and you're welcome to join us every Thursday for our fan email response episode. We'll just dedicate an entire one for you. Certainly, we've been known, like we've said, to put on our crazy tinfoil hats when it comes to thinking about these Westworld theories. One of our co-hosts, who's not here, has a theory about one of your former shows, however, Murder, She Wrote. He thinks it's awfully convenient that all the murders just happen anytime Jessica Fletcher is around. Isn't it more likely that she was actually a serial killer?
Highly likely. Just highly likely. I mean, the odds are certainly in its favor. Now, listen, it's funny. You're actually not the first person to bring. Somebody just recently in an interview brought that up. I had never heard that. Of course, I did hear that, the last place on the planet you want to go is Cabot Cove, Maine, because you might end up dead. And if you see Jessica Fletcher coming your way, you should run. But I think it's hysterical. I actually, after someone brought it up, it was just last week in an interview. Plus they're doing all these reboots, right? And so I sent Ron Masak an email, who played the sheriff, played Mort Metzger. I said, "All these reboots, you think we'll ever get a shot at it?" And he wrote me back. He had sent Angela. I think he sent Angela an email saying, Lewis and I are thinking about a reboot. And she said, "It's a great idea, but at 93, I think I'm going to pass. But love to you both." But maybe if she, heard this theory, that it might be a little more interesting. I think it would be a hoot.
It'd be a completely different show. It's a completely different show.
It's just dark as hell. It'd go from that theme song to, yeah, it would be amazing. But she is extraordinary. She'll be 93 in October 16th, her birthday, and she's still going, man. She's still doing stage. She's got a film that's about to come out, I think, and yeah, she's just remarkable. Such another wonderful, wonderful person, and that set was a joy to work on too. Yeah, for many reasons.
Well, in case you didn't think the theory could get darker,
yes, let's hear it.
a little further evidence is in 1996's season 12, episode 19, titled "Mystery Evidence of Malice."
Yeah,
your character, Deputy Andy, became the suspect of a killing after the murder weapon was found planted in his car. Do you think that Jessica was trying to send you a message and warn you to back off?
Well, That's possible, or maybe Andy was the serial killer.
There you go. This is the reboot. Guys, we're writing this. I mean, it's all here. It's all here.
You know, I will tell you, and I know that was just having fun, but I will tell you something that happened in that episode. And it's funny you would even know about that episode, but halfway through the episode, Angela is talking with Seth, Bill Wyndham, and she goes, Seth, Andy Broom did not kill Fred. And when I read that in the script, I actually went to one of the producers and I said, if Angela says it, it's gospel. So do you really want to give it away halfway through the script? You know? And he goes, no, it's, there still will be questions or whatever. And I'm like, okay. But to me, it's like if Angela says Andy Broom didn't do it, then Andy Broom didn't do it. She's never wrong.
Well, a serial killer would say that.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Yeah, she's like, it's like, no,
I'm the killer. Did you ever go on the Murder, She Wrote ride at Universal Studios Florida?
No, Florida? Oh no,
Yeah, Universal Studios Florida. I grew up in Florida, not too far away from Louisiana. By the way, are you a Louisiana State fan? LSU?
Oh hell yeah, big time.
Are you? I went to Florida. I'm a Gator, so
okay.
But I can tell you the best tailgates ever that I ever experienced were on the campus of the Louisiana State University.
Tiger Stadium.
You want to talk about the nicest people, regardless of whether you're an Alabama fan or a Gator fan. There's something about bringing the SEC brotherhood together.
Absolutely.
And I've never eaten more gumbo, more shrimp etouffee, all there.
Alligator.
Set up, yeah, it's yeah. Well, unfortunately, Gator as well. But
I didn't even think about that. It's like, hey, Gator fan, come over here. Have some of this alligator tail we got cooking up here.
Raj, did you tell him? Did you tell him your deep dark secret?
Oh, I was when I was at school at the University of Florida. I was actually the mascot of the University of Florida. I was Albert the Gator.
Oh,
so so it was a lot of fun. I remember there was one.
So you get on the field at Tiger Stadium, dude. I'm actually envious.
I was on the field. I remember it was one of the. So I was there from '97 to 2001.
Right.
And it was one of the raining games. It was pouring in Baton Rouge, and I had someone had given me I don't know how I got my hands on some garbage bags, like the big yard bags, and it was so slippery at the end of the end zones that in the big gator suit with the big giant gator head, I was like sliding across the entire end zone. And it was just so much fun. Everyone was having a blast. Everyone's drunk. I think we beat the Tigers. Those were the Spurrier years. We were pretty good back then. But yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. I had such a blast. But the suit was just covered in mud.
Can I ask the year?
Yeah.
What year that was?
97, 2001. 97 to 2001. So I'd have to look back at the calendars and figure out when we're
97 to 2001. So that was even before Nick Saban.
Oh yeah, that was before Nick Saban. That's right.
That was like, what's his name? Oh God, I can't remember his name. But he had a restaurant in Baton Rouge. Yeah, well, those were lean years for the Tigers.
Yeah.
That was pre Nick Saban and Les Miles and everybody. Mm-hmm. But there's really nothing quite like a football game in Tiger Stadium, as well as, like you say, the tailgating. Because if you're walking by, there's elaborate setups that people, and I have friends that do it. My oldest friend in the world, Tate Morris. I went to my first LSU game with he and his family when we were like this high. I mean, we were still in elementary school. And if you're walking by and you go, oh man, that smells good, they'll be like, come on over here and get some. It doesn't matter who it really is. The world should take note.
Yeah, if everyone just treated everyone like we do at SEC tailgates, the world would be a much better place.
Absolutely, I have no question about it.
You're very active on social media, including Twitter and Instagram. You can follow you at Lewis_Herthum. On your Twitter and Instagrams, we see a lot of posts, including your volunteerism in local community causes, such as feeding the homeless at the LA Mission. How did you get involved in these charities, and what activities do you have next on your calendar?
Well, I got involved in that particular charity through my publicist. She asked if I would be interested in doing these sort of things. And absolutely. Homelessness is just so incredibly heartbreaking. And I live in Santa Monica, California, where a huge homeless population, because the weather is always so nice and everything. So people that have to live outside tend to gravitate to places like this. But Los Angeles, I got this. California has something like 35 or 55% of the homeless people in this country. I think it was 55%. I got this stat when I was down there volunteering. It's just horrendous and it's just heartbreaking. So it's just one of those things that I'm happy to help in any tiny way that I can. I don't necessarily have any other thing lined up, but I'm always willing to help. I love speaking to kids' classes, whether they're acting classes or just classes. I do that whenever I'm asked. And so that's just the homeless situation is heartbreaking. And I've had so many encounters with homeless people, and many times they're obviously, have a mental handicap that I've walked out my front door and found people literally sitting on my steps often, or you see remnants of them having been there. And then there are other times where you find people that clearly just became homeless. They just simply lost their job, money ran out, and it's a huge issue. So it's always one that I'm happy to help with.
No, that's outstanding. And again, I think everyone's got their little ways that they help out. I know Roger and I are both very into animal rescues and stuff like that, but it is, it's great to see that even though with the busy schedule that you have, that you still make the time. We also saw on Instagram that you have a vintage Westworld movie poster framed next to your original Bullet poster. I'm a huge fan of Bullet, and King B, a friend of the podcast, also a huge fan. Did we see that you were recently restoring a 1968 Mustang Fastback?
I am. And
what's that like?
Well, as you say, Bullet was the reason that I got into showbiz. I was 12 years old when that film came out. My dad took me to see it. And literally when I walked out of the theater, I said, that's what I want to do when I grow up. And he said, what's that, son? I said, I want to drive cars like that in movies. It wasn't so much Steve McQueen that inspired me to go into show business. It was that chasing. So obviously I coveted that car from that day on. And I always knew I'd have one day. And I just kind of put it off long enough and said, I've got to pull the trigger now. And so I bought the car. Hell, I've had it now. I bought it in June of 15. And so it's going on 3 years, and it's been a slow process because I don't do the work myself. So, when you go to these places that do the work, they're not fast. Unless I guess you see in those shows on TV where they do these cars in 2 or 3 weeks, 6 weeks. Nah, not, because
it's not Exhibit pimping out your ride. It's
right. Or Fast and Loud or any of these things. It takes time. And the first guy that I had work on it, he took the job, and well into it, he said, he's effing Mustangs and effing Fords. And I'm like, excuse me? He goes, I'm really more of a Chevy guy. And I'm like, now you tell me. So there have been some setbacks in some of the stuff that had to be redone. And so now it's in another shop. I have been able to drive it. I've driven it around. You've probably seen some photos of it down at the beach. But I'm anxious. But in the meantime, I bought a 71 Corvette Stingray, which I'm having a blast driving. I was doing a film in Boston, and I showed the stunt coordinator my Mustang, and he goes, I got a 71 Corvette, gathering dust in my garage. And I'm like, what's wrong with it? And he goes, nothing. Purrs like a kitten. I'm like, what? So he showed me pictures of it, and I bought it. And so now I'm having fun driving it around while I'm waiting for my Mustang to get done.
Listen, if you ever are in the need for a 76 El Camino long body, I got one sitting in my garage right now.
76 long? Oh, that's a good year, man.
It's a big old boat.
Every time I stop by his house to pick up his dogs or pick up any gear for the podcast, I see that thing and it makes me want to cry. I'm like, get it out of the garage, get it on the road, man.
Does it run?
Oh yeah, it runs. It's all original, all stock. It's got 170,000 miles on it. I don't like big body El Caminos. I was never been a big fan. I'm a more Jeep guy. My dad, we have a 67 Jeep CJ. I want to say it's a CJ5, but it's a long one. It has 40,000 original miles on it, and he just restored it back. He put about 10,000 into it. And it purrs like a kid. It is gorgeous. It's got the 3-speed.
67, and he's got 10 grand in it. That's a good deal, man.
Well, it was our grandfather's, and it just sat up in a barn in California. I mean, not California, in Alabama, and He, had to change, of course, all the rubber parts and a water pump and everything.
And where's it? In his garage?
It's in Florida in his garage. He moved out the Camino and then, got the Jeep that I wanted. So we're actively putting the Camino so it's for sale so we can pay for the repairs to the Jeep. That's what we're doing.
Oh, okay. Well, the guy that actually fixed my car, worked on the Mustang the first time, is an El Camino guy. He's got a 71. He's got two, actually, 71s, and for whatever reason, that's a favorite year of his. But I remember, I think the 74 El Camino had more of a sleek back, from behind the cab. Is it sort of in that style?
Yeah, listen, if you type in Google, big giant car that resembles land yacht, this 76 El Camino pops up. It's got, the baby blue stripe alongside the navy blue. It needs a little bit of, I want to hot rod it out, but I don't have $20,000 sitting around, but
well, you could do it a little at a time. But the other thing that you can do, and actually what I was thinking of doing, because I bought the Corvette, to be honest with you, it's got such a great price. I bought it to sell, and I was going to put the money towards the Mustang. But I was I had to put all new brakes, shocks and stuff. I had to put money in it to get it, but it's just a blast to drive. So I haven't sold it. But what I think I might do is, when the time comes, put it up for trade. So you'd be amazed at some of the things that people will trade for you. So, I do have a 68 Mustang Fastback, and the interior is absolutely identical. I even have an original Shelby steering wheel, which are those things are I got a great deal on it on eBay, because I guess people didn't think it was real, but I contacted the guy, and when he told me where he got it from and everything, I was like, it's definitely real. And it is. And it has a Cobra button, horn button, which I saw one just like it. They're asking like $2,400 just for the button on eBay. Now that's they're asking, they may not get it. But anyway, so the interior of the car looks exactly like the Bullet car. The exterior, I painted it black forest green, which is when I saw that color it was a Chrysler color on Jeeps and stuff. I loved it, but on my Mustang, for whatever reason, it looks way too dark. I didn't really want to paint it Highland green and have another clone. There's so many Bullet clones out there. But it's a fun car to drive, man. It's a blast. I just can't wait till I get it back in my garage.
I know the feeling. I can't wait till I get the El Camino out and I can retake my garage.
There you go. Well, I'm sure you can sell it quick.
If anybody's in the market for a 1978 Puch Maxi moped, I've got one of those fully restored in my garage. That's about the extent of my mechanical skills.
Call the guys from American Pickers. They love mopeds and that kind of stuff.
There you go.
I'm big at. I love collecting. I'm an art collector. If you saw the picture of my posters, that's a stairwell that's just lined with art. I've been into art and antiques for many years, and I love it. I love to go to swap meets, and it's like treasure hunting.
I don't want to show you what I collect. It's all behind me, and Gene always.
I can see some of it. Do you have the pop vinyls?
I'm not a pop vinyl because that's too mainstream. I'm old school. I did the Mighty Mugs. So I was like the first generation.
Oh, cool.
There's little Mace Windu. I got all the Star Wars collectors. Yeah. I got to sell all this stuff. I have,
well, it's like money in the bank, right?
Well, it's money thrown down the toilet is what my girlfriend says.
Well, unless unless they go up. I bought all the pop vinyl. I bought all the Westworld pop vinyls. I had to do that. And when my daughter saw them, let me show you. Your audience can't see it, but hang on, I want to show you something. My daughter thought that I should have my own pop vinyl. So for Christmas, she created.
Oh, can I take a picture of this? I'm going to take a picture of this.
Wait, can you see it?
Let's see. That's great. Yeah.
Anyway, let's see.
I'll take one more.
It's really woody. And she painted, I told her, I said, well, babe, you didn't put the gray beard and, she painted the shirt blue and put the cuffs, on it, and then changed Peter and the Westworld logo. So that was cute. She gave me that for Christmas. But, yeah.
So speaking of your daughter, actually, we had another question about that. So there's a note in here to tell you from the ether that your 2015 Toyota Super Bowl commercial, "My Bold Dad," makes is it Big D or is yours, Raj?
It's Big D.
It's a note from Big D. All right, so we have a note here from Big D that says your 2015 Toyota Super Bowl commercial, "My Bold Dad," makes him almost cry every time he thinks about it, and he was wondering if you had any advice to share that you've learned from raising your daughter.
Well, any advice that I would share about raising a child Personally, I love that I have a daughter. I just think there's something really special between a daughter and her dad. And one of the reasons it's so easy, Peter Abernathy and I have so much in common. It's really amazing. My daughter is a beautiful little blonde-haired beauty and smart girl, and so she's my everything. She is, just like I say to Dolores, I am what I am because of you. And I grew up in an era where, and especially in the South, and of course, Roger, you coming from the South. Gene, I'm not sure where are you from originally?
I was I was born in Queens, New York, but raised in Arizona.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what it was. I'm sure it's this way all over. Of course, you guys are a lot younger than I am, but in the South, I grew up with in a pretty strict home. My dad was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, and it wasn't regimented, but it was strict, and you had to respect people, and you had to be polite to people, and you never raised your hand to one of your sisters, which we were like siblings are, but you never hit your sister, and I would just say it's really easy to be nice to people. I think it's one of the easiest things in the world to do, and so few people do it. I shouldn't say so few people, but a lot of people that are that we see on the news and everything, and they aren't always. It seems that people are always trying to get over and that kind of thing. And the easiest thing in the world to do is to be friendly and kind and respectful to people. And I would say start doing that as early as you can, and learn to be responsible. Responsibility is just really important. And those are things that mean a lot to me, raising a kid, any kid. And then as far as the daughter is concerned, I've never had any sense that I had to let her mom talk about this subject or that. I just think that's part of being a parent. Regardless, you have to talk about things that are maybe uncomfortable. And I know, and I'm not necessarily talking about the birds and the bees. And in class, they actually have these classes now in school where she goes to school. But I remember my dad. I don't know about you guys, but I remember my dad starting to tell me about the birds and the bees. Of course, which by then I knew everything. I think I was in sixth grade, something like that, seventh grade. And we were on the way to get a haircut. And he started telling me about 2 blocks from that barbershop. And so we had to quit, and then he never did it again. So, and it was okay. I like I said, kids learn things really, really early. And I think the parents don't even realize. If you think back on when you were on the school lot. But yeah, man, just do, teach them to be good human beings. We need as many of them as we can get. Ooh, I just realized go ahead, guys. I realized my computer wasn't plugged in.
That is sound advice from America's favorite robot dad. That's what I've been calling you on Twitter. I hope that's okay.
I'm happy to be America's favorite anything. So that's kind of nice. And you say I'm really active on social media. I'm not that good at it. I'm not that good at it.
You're great. You're on Reddit. You're on Twitter. You're doing AMAs. You're on all these different podcasts. You're everywhere. It's awesome because I don't think people understand that we reached out kind of like Sir Anthony Hopkins' story. We just reached out to you directly, not thinking you would ever respond to us. And you couldn't have been more gracious with your time. You couldn't have been more nice and more real and more down to earth and authentic. And in an age of, people getting famous for these fake lifestyles that they put on Instagram and for all the cheesy reality television shows, it's so refreshing to see someone authentic and just engaging, and it's just such a pleasure. So thank you.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate that. And again, it's easy. It's not hard to do. And as I was saying earlier, I think when I first moved out here in 1982, young guy, had stars in my eyes, and was absolutely positive I was going to become rich and famous. Okay, and very quickly you realize fame. Hell with fame. I just want a paycheck. I just want to work. So then once you start working and everything, and then, getting to, this can be an ugly business. It's full of unsavory people, but it's also got an enormous amount of really, really good, wonderful people. And fame wasn't that important, but look, recognition for your work. I think everybody likes to be recognized for their work. So yeah, I'm really gracious. My gratitude towards the folks that have reached out to me is undying. I'm just very thankful,
Yeah, on a personal level, I wanted to thank you personally for recording the intro to the podcast. For us doing this, I always get asked, like, people ask you weird questions when you launch a podcast, like, how do you plan on making money doing this? And and we're like, we never planned on making money doing this. And you spend 10 or 20 hours a week working on it, and why? And it was something that I could point to and say, Lewis Herthum said my name, my stage name on a recording. And people know that, like, they know that phrase now. That's like our mantra, that music and your voice on there. And it's like, that's all the payment you need. Right. And so I think that, even like you said, those little acts of kindness makes a huge difference to other people. And it was a big inspiration for us to keep doing this thing. And I don't know, every time I still get goosebumps every time I listen to that intro to the podcast. I'm like, he said it. He said it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Thanks, guys.
I'm pretty sure my girlfriend's only dating me because I showed her that I have your number on my phone. And I was like, listen.
I doubt that seriously.
Look at where I'm going places with the podcast. No, Lewis, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. And anytime that you have an extra spot in your tailgate crew down at Louisiana State, please keep us in mind.
Well, I can hook you up. If you go down there, that's for sure. I may not be there, but because I'm here most of the time in California. But yeah, if you do go, let me know. I can hook you up.
All right. If you're ever in Arizona, please look us up. We'd love to go golfing.
Oh, cool. How about Tiger?
Yeah,
huh?
Tiger's doing well.
He was in second place there for a moment or two. They're only 4 strokes behind yesterday. Look, I'm a huge Tiger fan, so I'm glad to see him back playing golf and doing so well. Yeah, I think he's got another major ring. I really do. I hope it's this year.
Well, listen, if you have any connections to the Waste Management Open and you have some extra seats in the bird nest out here in Scottsdale, Arizona, the Daytona 500 of golf tournaments. Yeah, it's the first. It kicks off
Waste Management. Seriously,
the Waste Management Open. The 16th hole. Just look it up. It is a party. It is a giant.
Wait, is that the one that Tiger did? Got the hole in one on 16th hole?
I'm not. Gene, you might know.
So the Waste Management. It used to be called the Phoenix Open. Then the official title is the Waste Management. But yeah, I think he did hit that on.
Well, yeah, I think it is. And I think, really? Yeah, the 16th, it's a par 3, right? Yeah. No, yeah. He's had good luck on 16 holes, like in the Masters when he sunk that amazing chip shot that went all the way up and came all the way down and sat on the rim and then dropped in. If you haven't seen that, you got to watch it. It's one of the greatest golf shots in history.
For a guy who lives in Scottsdale and spends his entire life in like a 5-mile radius, Raj knows precious little about golf. It's kind of shocking.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have golf clubs. No, I'll play, but I don't ever want to be good at golf because then I'll get angry if I don't play well. I just want to go out and I want to have fun and I want to drink some beers and I want to enjoy the camaraderie of it. If I get too good, I'll be upset if I miss a shot, and that's just not fun for me.
I just don't want to be in your cart, and if you're riding, I don't want to be in your cart. I want to be in your cart with somebody who hits it a little bit straighter. Although, hey, look, I'm guilty of that too. I got to wait twice.
I am better in scrambles than I am one-on-one. I'll hit some straight balls now. I'll hit some straight balls.
My problem was the very first time that my friends finally got me to go out and play golf, because I kept telling them the same thing that you just said. I said, look, guys, I'm going to get obsessed with it. I see how obsessed you guys are. I love athletic things. And, and I played baseball and softball for years. So I'm like, I get it. I bet I could knock the shit out of that ball. You said I could cuss. I hope that's all right. And so sure enough, my very first, we played at Griffith Park, very first tee it up. I just thought, I'll just use my baseball swing, but lower. And I crushed it straight down the fairway. And they were like, you got to be kidding me. And I'm like, nothing to it, guys. What's a big deal? Of course, it just went to hell in the handbasket after that. But you hit that one good shot. That's what keeps you coming back again and again.
Well, thank you so much. It truly has been a pleasure. Is there anything else you want to promote? Anything you have coming up? Any recent projects that are about to hit?
Well, there's a film I'm really looking forward to called Labyrinth with Johnny Depp, and it's also about the whole Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls murders. Jimmy Simpson, our buddy Jimmy Simpson, just did a series called Unsolved. I think it was on USA on the same topic, and there was a documentary just recently about it. So suddenly that's in vogue again. But those murders were never solved, and they should have been. So that's a movie that's coming out, I think, sometime this year. There's a wonderful film I'm really looking forward to. I think they're calling it I Still See You. It's based on a book by Daniel Waters called Break My Heart 1,000 Times. And that's with Bella Thorne and Dermot Mulroney. And it's a really, really interesting film. Universal, I think, is behind it. They're pretty excited. That'll be later this year, possibly early 19. Then another film called Cadaver with Shay Mitchell and Stanek. I never can say her name right. From oh gosh, what is it? Oh god, I can't think. It's too early for me, guys. Anyway, that film is coming out sometime this year or early next year, and that's about it. Got some other things brewing, but they're not done yet. So
just 3 or 4 movies, no big deal.
Oh,
all in a day's work.
It takes a long time to get these things from filming to the screen. So.
Well, I guess on behalf of all the team here at the Shat on podcast, it's been a long time for us to finally get you on, and we're so glad that you made the time for us this morning. We certainly will be watching it with you. In your watch parties. We're having our own watch parties here as well, and I can't thank you so much.
Well, I think you guys saw from my pleasure, Roger and Gene. I think you could see from the previews for the next episode is freaking off the chain, man. It is Shogun World. Here you come.
Perfect. Would you mind if we get a quick photo? We're just a little behind the scenes here at Shat. The podcast here. We do everything virtual, so let's we'll post this on our Instagram and.
Say without my glasses, everything's blurry, so I'm just hoping that.
Should we look engrossed in conversation or smiling?
Yeah, we'll just smile.
So yeah, okay. So I can talk and give you all of these facial expressions. Maybe I should give you the fool look. No.
Oh, there it is. It's
chilling. There we go. All right, here we go. One more time, and there it is. Perfect. That's great.
Wow. Okay, guys.
Awesome. Lou, thank you so much. Been great. Enjoy your day. Gene, anything else from you before we shut down and get ready for our deep dive?
No, just thanks a lot. Yeah, we got. I'm going to go back to the office and act like I'm working while I work the notes for the deep dive.
Do you find the deep dive in the same place that you find the?
We record the deep dive tonight, so we'll watch the show a couple times and then do our deep dive where we look at some of the theories, some of the we'll put on tinfoils, kind of break everything.
Yeah, so the deep dive for episode 3 is up, as is the Telegraph, which is the listener mail, and then the Instacast for episode 4 is up, but the deep dive will be up tomorrow. We're recording it tonight, so it gives us 24 hours after we put out our first thoughts for us to kind of digest what it was and dig a little deeper. So right now, a lot of the listeners are already starting to bombard us with messaging about what was this all about, what was that all about, and the best though is when they've got these theories that are completely debunked by the show, but then they come up with alternative reasons why they could still be right. They're like, well, so that wasn't the Man in Black's daughter, though. You know that, right? They just said it was, though, kind of. Well, yeah, but don't you think it's odd that she survived a tiger attack, then swam all the way over there, and then got captured by a ghost nation, then got loose, and then found them, and her hair and makeup are all done? Don't you think that's weird?
Well, did y'all guess that it was that's who that was? That in the beginning of the second episode, or was third episode? Yeah, third episode.
Yeah, it was one of 3 guesses. So I was thinking it was the Man in Black's daughter. There was another guess that it was a relative of Teresa Cullen, and then the other one was that she was just a corporate spy named Grace, that she was in QA actually. Sorry, that she was because there's a Grace Ma who's listed on the website. People have found. So
actually, Gene, I heard your first what do you call the Insta whatever. What do you call it? Instacast for episode 3, and you weren't that pleased with some of the stuff I was doing.
No, I said that they were going back to the well too much. Yeah. That we know you can do that, and we've seen it. And honestly, I just don't think I can endure the pain of it. But then when we went when I got the message about King Lear, I said, "Oh shit!" I felt like an idiot after that because I was like, he was putting Wheel of Fire right out there for me. I didn't even pick it up.
Yeah. Now listen, I will say this. I actually brought this up because it's something I want to say. My biggest concern, knowing that of what I had to do, was to try to do something a little different because you're tasked with the same sort of activity, and I totally get. I totally get what you were saying. I haven't done it that much because, I do think some people have watched the scene with Anthony Hopkins so many times that maybe it seems like you're seeing that much of it because there's really only the second. Well, I guess it's the third time to count the porch where I was glitching.
I just want them to do so much more with you. And I hope that, that you're not just a vessel for data, that something much bigger is in store.
We'll see what happens. We'll see.
Damn.
We'll see. Yeah, no, it's all
I had
good.
to try.
Well, listen, guys, it's been a pleasure, and happy to do it anytime. We could do it maybe later on after the more is revealed.
I think we lost Raj's audio entirely, but on behalf of the podcast, I'll say thank you for your time, and we'll record some sort of outro later. I think we lost Roger completely.
Yeah, I think he's engaged in something. I can see. Wait, he's about to come back. Wait, he's smiling. What's happening?
I'm multitasking. I'm on a webinar right now as well.
Oh wow. Okay. Wow, you are a multitasker.
Oh, jeez.
All right,
Okay.
guys. My pleasure.
All right, well, let's say our goodbyes then, Raj.
All right. Hey, thanks, Lewis. Take care.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure. Thank
My
you
pleasure.
so much.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
guys.
much.
We'll see you.